according to Weber-Fechner law, strength of stimulus perceived is directly proportional to. So here the question is regarding laws in CNS. So first we will quickly go through all the laws and then we will come back to the question. So these are the laws which are very important: Weber-Fechner, Bell-Megenty, law of projection and Muller's law. So now we will see all these laws one by one. Weber-Fechner law. What is this law saying? It says that strength of sensation felt is directly proportional to log of stimulus intensity. Just take an example. If someone prick you with the needle, then you will feel less pain as compared to if someone hit you with the axe. It means what's happening? That is, if you increase the intensity of the stimulus, then what is happening? Then strength of sensation felt is increasing. Got it? So this is nothing but Weber-Fechner law, which says that strength of sensation felt is directly proportional to log of stimulus intensity. Intensity of stimulus is increasing, then strength of sensation felt is also increasing. This is Weber-Fechner law. Got it? Now, next law is Bell-Megenty law. It's a very simple law. What is this say? What is this law saying? It says that ventral root of spinal nerve is motor and dorsal root is sensory. So here you can see this is dorsal root which is sensory and the ventral root which is motor. That's it. So this is Bell-Megenty law. Next law is law of projection. Here you can see the pain pathway which is arising from leg and going to the brain. Okay. So if along this pathway I stimulate this nerve at any point, then remember the sensation felt is referred to its site of receptor. I am repeating it once again, just listen carefully. Here you can see the pain pathway from the leg. If along this pathway I stimulate at any point, then sensation felt is referred to its site of receptor which is present in leg. Got it? So this is nothing but law of projection. Let's see. On stimulation of sensory pathway at any point, sensory pathway at any point, sensation are referred to the site of receptor. Got it? So this is about law of projection. Now, phantom limb phenomenon. Remember, phantom limb phenomenon. What is phantom limb? Here the patient is having pain or other sensation in amputated limb. How it's happening? This phantom limb is based on law of projection. Okay, this phantom limb phenomenon is based on law of projection. Let's see how. Here this pathway, remember, it's carrying information from the leg, pain signal from the leg, but here you can see now there is no more leg. Leg is amputated. Still the patient is receiving pain sensation from the leg. Why? Whenever this is the stump. Whenever here, if suppose here this pathway is stimulated, okay, over here, then what will happen? The patient feels that this pain is coming from which side? It's coming from this leg side, but this leg is now no more. So remember that phantom limb phenomenon is based on which law? It is law of projection. Got it, guys? Now, here again you can see pain is going, okay, but information is coming from the leg. Now, next law is Muller's law of specific nerve energy. It's again a very simple law. What does it mean? This law says each nerve fiber carries specific sensation. Specific sensation regardless of nature of stimulation. Just take an example. If I stimulate the nerve fiber carrying pain, then what will happen? Then you will perceive it as a pain only, not touch sensation. Okay. So when you touch a nerve fiber which is carrying pain, then you will feel pain sensation, not touch sensation. Got it? So again you can take one more example, that with your eyes you cannot hear, you can only see, and with your ear you cannot see, you only hear. So it means every nerve is carrying, each nerve in our body is carrying specific sensation. Each nerve in our body is carrying specific sensation. Got it? So this is nothing but Muller's law of specific nerve endings or energies. Okay. Now, what was our question? According to the Weber-Fechner law, strength of stimulus perceived is directly proportional to. Now you know the answer. It's intensity of stimulus. Got it? 10 gram mannitol injection is given in venous blood. At equilibrium, plasma concentration of mannitol is 60 mg per 100 ml. Calculate ECF volume if urinary excretion was 10%. So here we are having calculation based question, and this calculation is asking from body fluid measurement. So first quickly we will go through that and then we will come back to this question. Measurement of the body fluid. It is done by, remember, indicator dilution method, which is also called dye dilution method. Indicator dilution method, dye dilution method. This is a method by which body fluid is measured, and this is based on a principle. The name of that principle is Stewart-Hamilton principle. Write it down, it's very important. What are we actually doing in this method? Here we are injecting a dye and then we are measuring the concentration of a dye in a plasma. Okay, got it? Now we will see the formula. The formula for calculating body fluid measurement is V is equal to I minus E divided by C. V is equal to I minus E divided by C. What is V? V is volume of fluid, I is amount of dye injected, E is amount of dye excreted, and C is concentration of dye in a fluid. Just write it down, it's a very important formula. V is equal to I minus E divided by C. So now we are having a formula and we are having values also from our question. So just say it. So 10 gram mannitol is injected, means we are having I, 60 milligram per 100 ml, it is C, that is concentration of dye in a fluid. What about E? It is urinary excretion was 10%. So we are having E also. Let's see. So V is equal to I minus E divided by C. I is 10 gram. We can write 10 gram as 10,000 milligram. E is 10% of 10 gram, that is 1 gram, and we can write 1 gram as 1000 milligram. So we are having 1000 milligram. E 10,000 milligram. I, what about C? C is 60 milligram per 100 ml. Okay, now again formula was V is equal to I minus E divided by C. Putting all these value in our equation, 10,000 minus 1000 divided by C was 60 divided by 100. So it becomes 9,000 divided by 0.6. Got it? So finally it will become V is equal to 15,000 ml or 15 liter. Got it? It's a very simple formula. Okay. Now let's come back to our question. So the answer to this question is 15 liter. Isn't it easy, guys? Okay. Now iodine 125 labeled albumin is used for measurement of plasma volume, interstitial fluid volume, ICF or ECF. We will come back to this question. Before that, we will discuss various dyes used in body fluid measurement, starting with dyes for plasma volume. Remember, there are two dyes which are most commonly used for plasma volume measurement. So what are these two dyes? Number one, albumin labeled iodine 125 and Evans blue, which is also called T1824. These are two dyes. Number 1 is albumin labeled iodine 125 and Evans blue, which is also called T1824. Among these two, most commonly used is albumin labeled iodine 125. It's very important, write it down. Okay. Now, how to remember that these two dyes are used for plasma volume? So, let's have a look. Albumin, you know, albumin is restricted to the plasma. So, now wherever you see the word albumin, you will think of that it is a dye which is used for measuring plasma volume. But what about Evans blue? Evans blue, if you see it carefully, you can see that it's having a word blue in it. Blue is Neela, okay, and plasma is asma. So, Neela asma. So, now whenever you get a question about Evans blue, you will think of Neela asma. Got it? So, this is how you should remember the dyes used for plasma volume. This is albumin and Evans blue. Got it? Now, moving forward. Dyes for total body water. There are lot of dyes. So, among these few are deuterium oxide, tritium oxide, antipyrine and aminopyrine. Among all these, most commonly used dye is deuterium oxide, which is also called D2O, tritium oxide T2O. Got it? It's very important, write it down that these dyes are used for measuring total body water. Okay. Now, we will see how to remember all these dyes. Remember, these D2O and T2O, these two are brothers of water. Okay. D2O, T2O are brothers of water, they are bhai bhai. Okay. Got it? So, now onwards, whenever you get a question regarding deuterium oxide or tritium oxide, you will think of brothers of water, bhai bhai. Okay, got it? Now, what about the remaining antipyrine and aminopyrine? Just see carefully, it's having PY and TY word in it. Okay, so pyasa for water. Wherever you see the word antipyrine, you will think of pyasa for what? For water. Pyasa for water. It means antipyrine, aminopyrine, pyasa for water. So, dyes for total body water. Got it? Okay. Let's move forward. Now, we will see dyes for ECF volume. These are mannitol, inulin, sucrose, iothelmate, sodium thiosulfate. Among these, again, most commonly used is inulin. It is most accurate. Most accurate is inulin. Remember, most accurate is inulin, and write it down all these examples because it's very important. These all dyes, including plasma volume, total body water, ECF volume, every year you will get a lot of questions on all these dyes. Okay, so write it down. Now, we will see how to remember all these dyes which are used for ECF volume. Let's see with a blockbuster mnemonic. What is the mnemonic saying? Man in suit in extraction. Man is mannitol, in is inulin, su is sucrose, I is iothelmate, sodium thiosulfate is T, and extracellular fluid volume is your extraction. Got it? One more time I am telling you, it's man in suit in extraction is used for ECF volume measurement. Got it? Just write it down, it's very important. So, now moving ahead. RBC volume. Remember, RBC volume is measured with RBC labeled chromium 51. Write it down, RBC labeled chromium 51. Okay. Now, we will see the questions. Coming back to our previous question, iodine 125 labeled albumin is used for measurement of. I know now you can answer without seeing the options. Okay, what's the answer is? Answer is plasma volume. So, option A is plasma volume.